The sterile smell of antiseptic clung to the corridors of the maternity hospital, mixing with the faint cries of newborns and the soft murmur of nurses' shoes against the polished floor. Alina lay exhausted but alert, her arms trembling slightly as she cradled her baby for the first time. Hours earlier she had endured pain she never imagined possible, and now, in the quiet aftermath, she felt an overwhelming mix of fear, relief, and fragile happiness. She thought this moment would be sacred, protected from the noise of the outside world. She was wrong. The door burst open without a knock. Her mother-in-law, Valentina Petrovna, entered as if she owned the place, her heels clicking sharply, her lips pressed into a thin, judgmental line. She barely glanced at the child before fixing her cold gaze on Alina. There was no congratulations, no warmth, no hint of pride. Instead, there was impatience, irritation, and something sharper, disdain. "So," Valentina said, crossing her arms. "You've finally done it." Alina tried to sit up straighter, wincing. "Please," she whispered, "lower your voice. The baby." Valentina waved her hand dismissively. "Don't teach me. I've raised children myself. What I want to know is what you plan to do now." Confused and still weak, Alina stared at her. I'm recovering. We're going home in a few days." Valentina let out a dry laugh. "Home? To whose home?" "My son's apartment." "Don't be ridiculous. You think because you've given birth you suddenly belong there." The words hit harder than any contraction. Alina's throat tightened. "Your son is my husband. This is his child." Valentina stepped closer, her shadow falling across the bed. "My son made a mistake. And mistakes can be corrected. I came to make sure you understand that you are not welcome." Nurses passed by the open door, unaware of the cruelty unfolding inside. Alina felt her heart pounding, panic rising. "You can't just throw me out," she said, her voice shaking. "I have nowhere to go." "That's not my problem," Valentina snapped. "Pack your things when you're discharged and leave. Don't cling where you don't belong." Tears blurred Alina's vision. She clutched her baby closer, instinctively protective. "Please," she said, barely audible. "At least think of your grandchild." Valentina's eyes hardened. "I am thinking. That child deserves stability, not you." The door creaked again, and this time the atmosphere shifted instantly. A man stood in the doorway, tall, broad-shouldered, his presence commanding without effort. Valentina froze mid-sentence, her face draining of color. For a moment, she looked as if she had forgotten how to breathe. It was Alina's father, Sergei Ivanovich, a man Valentina hadn't expected to see. He had arrived quietly, having flown in overnight after receiving Alina's tearful message. He took in the scene at a glance, his pale daughter, the newborn, and Valentina looming over the bed like a storm cloud. "What's going on here?" he asked calmly, though there was steel beneath his voice. Valentina opened her mouth, then closed it. Words failed her. This was not the weak, absent man she remembered dismissively. This was a father who had come to defend his child. Sergei stepped fully into the room. "I asked you a question." Valentina straightened, trying to regain control. "This is a family matter," she said stiffly. "You shouldn't interfere." "Oh, but I should," Sergei replied. "When my daughter is being threatened in a hospital bed, it becomes my business." Alina felt a wave of relief wash over her. She wasn't alone anymore. Sergei turned to her, his expression softening. "You're not going anywhere," he said gently. "Not today. Not ever, unless you choose to." Valentina scoffed, though her confidence was clearly shaken. "You don't decide that." Sergei met her gaze without blinking. "Actually, neither do you. And if you try to force her out, I'll make sure every legal authority knows exactly how you behaved." Silence filled the room. Valentina's lips trembled. She hadn't anticipated resistance, much less exposure. With a sharp huff, she spun on her heel and left without another word. As the door closed, Alina finally allowed herself to cry, silent tears slipping down her cheeks. Sergei took her hand, squeezing it reassuringly. "You did nothing wrong," he said. "Remember that." Far away, in a brightly lit television studio, another confrontation was unfolding, one just as public but no less raw. Mark Wahlberg sat on a sleek couch beneath the glaring lights of the Today Show, smiling politely as the interview began. He expected the usual questions about his latest project, perhaps a light-hearted anecdote or two. Instead, the tone shifted quickly. The host leaned forward, her smile tight. Mark, there have been accusations that your past behavior contradicts the image you present today. Some say you've never truly taken responsibility. Mark's jaw clenched slightly. I've addressed my past many times, he said carefully. I've worked hard to grow and make amends. But is that enough? The host pressed. Some critics believe your success excuses things that shouldn't be excused. The questions kept coming, sharper, more personal. The warmth drained from the set. Mark shifted in his seat, his patience thinning. He had agreed to an interview, not a public shaming. With respect, he said, his voice firm, this feels less like a conversation and more like an attack. The host didn't relent. Viewers deserve honesty. Mark stood up abruptly, the movement startling everyone. I'm all for honesty, he said, eyes flashing. But I won't sit here and be humiliated for entertainment. The cameras kept rolling as he removed his microphone. This isn't why I came, he added, then walked off the set without looking back. The studio buzzed with stunned silence, producers scrambling, the host frozen in place. In that moment, Mark reclaimed control, refusing to be cornered into a narrative he didn't accept. Back in the maternity hospital, Alina watched her baby sleep, the tiny chest rising and falling steadily. The storm had passed, for now. She knew challenges lay ahead, confrontations, decisions, difficult conversations, but something fundamental had changed. She had found her voice, and she had allies. Whether in a quiet hospital room or under the harsh lights of a television studio, the message was the same: no one has the right to humiliate, discard, or silence you. Sometimes, standing up means staying. Sometimes, it means walking away. But either way, dignity is not negotiable. The morning light crept through the tall windows of the maternity ward, pale and unforgiving. Outside, the city was waking up, unaware that inside one small room a quiet war was unfolding. Marina lay propped against stiff white pillows, her body aching, her mind fogged from exhaustion. Her newborn slept beside her, wrapped tightly in a hospital blanket, unaware of the tension thickening the air. The door opened sharply, striking the wall with a dull thud. Marina flinched. Even before she looked up, she knew who it was. Her mother-in-law, Galina Sergeyevna, never knocked. She entered every space as if it were already hers. So this is it, Galina said, scanning the room with clear disappointment. No flowers, no visitors. Fitting. Marina swallowed. Good morning, she said quietly. Galina ignored the greeting and stepped closer to the bed. Her eyes flicked to the baby for less than a second before returning to Marina with open hostility. I hope you understand that after discharge, you won't be coming to our apartment. Marina felt as if the room had tilted. What do you mean? I mean exactly what I said, Galina replied coldly. You've caused enough embarrassment already. My son doesn't need more trouble. Marina's hands trembled as she adjusted the blanket around her child. Your son is the father. He said we would go home together. Galina laughed, sharp and humorless. My son is confused. Men often are. But I won't allow a mistake to ruin his life. Marina's chest tightened. She had imagined many difficult moments after childbirth, but not this. Not being cast aside while still bleeding, still weak, still trying to understand how to be a mother. You can't just throw me out, she whispered. I have nowhere else to go. Galina leaned in, lowering her voice. That's not my concern. You should have thought about that before trapping him. The words cut deep. Marina felt tears sting her eyes but forced herself not to cry. Please, she said, at least respect that we're in a hospital. Respect is earned, Galina snapped. Pack your things when you're discharged and leave. Don't cling to a place that was never yours. Before Marina could respond, the door opened again. This time, the sound was softer, hesitant. A man stood in the doorway, holding a small travel bag. Galina stiffened. What are you doing here? She asked sharply. I came for my daughter, said Viktor Andreevich, Marina's father. His voice was calm, but there was unmistakable authority behind it. Marina gasped. Papa. He crossed the room in 2 long steps, gently kissing her forehead. His eyes moved from her pale face to the baby, then to Galina. I got your message last night, he said. I took the first train. This is a family matter, Galina said. You have no right. I have every right, Viktor interrupted. You are telling my daughter to leave with a newborn and nowhere to go. That makes it my business. Galina scoffed. She's not welcome in my son's home. Viktor met her gaze steadily. Then she will stay with me. And if you try to intimidate her again, I'll involve lawyers, social services, and anyone else necessary." For the first time, Galina hesitated. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She hadn't expected resistance, especially not from a man she had always dismissed as irrelevant. Marina exhaled shakily, relief flooding her body. Galina turned abruptly and left the room, heels clicking furiously down the hallway. Victor pulled a chair closer to the bed and sat. "You are not alone," he said gently. "You never were." Marina finally let the tears fall. Across the ocean, under the relentless glare of studio lights, another confrontation was building. Mark Wahlberg sat upright on the familiar set of the Today Show, hands clasped, posture controlled. He had done countless interviews, but something about this one felt off from the start. "Mark," the host began with a tight smile, "many people say your past continues to follow you. Do you think you've done enough to deserve the platform you have now?" Mark nodded slowly. "I've taken responsibility for my past actions. I've spent decades trying to do better. But critics argue," the host continued, "that success has allowed you to escape real consequences." The temperature in the studio seemed to drop. Mark shifted slightly. "I don't agree with that framing," he said. "I've spoken openly about my mistakes." The questions became more pointed, less about his work and more about moral judgment. The conversation no longer felt like an interview, it felt like an interrogation. Mark's expression hardened. "I came here to talk about my film," he said evenly. "Not to be put on trial." The host pressed on. "Viewers want accountability." Mark stood up, the movement sudden and decisive. "Accountability doesn't mean humiliation," he said. "And I won't be part of this." He removed his microphone and placed it on the table. Cameras captured every second as he turned and walked off the set, leaving stunned silence behind him. Producers scrambled, the host frozen, her practiced composure cracking. Back in the hospital, Marina watched the afternoon sun warm the walls of her room. Her baby stirred, stretching tiny fingers. Victor stood by the window, speaking quietly with a nurse about discharge plans. For the first time since giving birth, Marina felt steady. The fear was still there, the uncertainty undeniable, but the cruelty had been stopped. She had been defended. She had been heard. In different places, under different circumstances, the same truth had emerged. Whether in a private hospital room or on live television, there are moments when silence becomes surrender. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stand your ground, or walk away, with your dignity intact.